Hello, I am going to wait for Darlene Hawley to come in. What do I go live with? Send to. This is always such a process because I don't really know how to do it. Here we go. Send. I sent an invitation to my friend Darlene Hawley, who is doing an Attract and Stand Out branding summit that's starting next week. And we are kicking off the summit with my talk on burnout. So Darlene and I are going to chat for a second today to share with you more about what that's going to look like and how you can sign up and all of those lovely things. So I hope you can hear me okay. Looks like you can. And I really need to buy a stand for my phone that holds it upright because I bought one and it only holds me sideways, which is not useful at all. So let me just wait for Darlene to get on here. Hopefully that invitation went through. I'll try one more time just in case. It says successfully sent, so we'll wait for her to come on. So in the meantime, I'll start talking about the summit. It's from January 13th to January 17th, and it is called the Attract and Stand Out Brand Building Virtual Summit. And there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Oh, Darlene, you're here. So I sent you an invite. There you are. Requests, add. All right, just waiting for you to pop in here. It's going to be me, you, and these lovely wispies that I have.
Hey, Cait, how are you?
Hi, Darlene. Good. How are you?
Amazing. Thank you so much for having me on your live with you today.
I'm so excited about it, and I've been waiting for it all day. So I just started to tell people about why we're here today. So we're talking about your virtual summit that it runs from the 13th to the 17th, correct?
Yes, it does. We start on Monday. I can't believe it's only a week away. I've been planning this for like 3 months, so it feels like I had all this time and there was like all these tasks to do, but I had all this time to do, and now I'm like, oh my gosh, like after the holidays, like everything snuck up so quickly with taking the past couple weeks off, and I'm like, I'm so excited, like it's finally here. Like
all of a sudden it's crunch time.
Yes, totally crunch time.
It's totally crunch time. So the summit is called the Attract and Stand Out Brand Building Virtual Summit. Can you tell people why you decided to do a summit like this?
Yeah. So one of the things that I see in the online space is there's just so much information, and some of it's great and some of it's like great to take in and absorb. And then other stuff, I guess the big thing is there's just so much information out there, right? So we don't always know who to listen to, what advice to take. And my idea was just to take some experts that I know truly are growing online businesses, and they're actually out there doing the work, and they're like a living example of what having an online business looks like. And I wanted to bring them together and just share their expertise and share their advice and share all of this amazing knowledge they have inside themselves. And for myself, knowing that it's truth, it's actually working for them and they're actually out there doing it, where there's other people that I see that are talking about their online businesses, and I don't know that I have trusted everything that I've heard.
Right.
So I wanted a space where we could come together and really know that we are hearing from people that were in the trenches, doing the stuff every single day, had clients, had value to share. And I wanted to give them a platform where they could just show up in an authentic way and share their story, share their message. Every one of the guests shares a little bit at the beginning of each interview of what their business is and how they started their business, because each of us come onto this entrepreneurial journey with completely different paths. Some of us are working corporate. Some of us loved our corporate jobs. Some of us hated our corporate jobs. Some of us were burnt out and stressed out and exhausted. And some of us just were looking for more. They wanted the freedom, the ability to kind of have the flexibility in their schedule. That was one of the things that was huge for me when I started my business. I loved what I did when I worked in retail management, but I missed out on so much being a mom. Like I wanted the flexibility in my schedule to make choices for myself. And if I wanted to go to a networking event, it was because I wanted to go and be there. It wasn't because I had to be there because you know, a boss said I had to work these hours and I had to be away from my family for all this stuff. So I just wanted a space for us to come together and really learn from each other and share top tips and advice that really like comes from our heart and has us showing up as our true selves. So that was kind of like my big why.
Yeah, and the name of it is Attract and Stand Out. So when I read that, I mean, what of course, when you and I spoke, we talked about burnout because that's the thing that I talk about all the time.
Yeah.
But your main topic is brand building. So the title of it is Attract and Stand Out. What does that like? What does that mean for you? And what do you hope that people will gain from watching?
Yeah. So as an online business coach, I'm helping people stand out online, right? Like we want to be able to attract our ideal clients to us. So we want to be able to put together, share our brand story in a way that draws people in so they get to know who we are. We start to build that know, like, trust factor. Yep. And we want to be able to stand out. There's so much competition online. I'm sure you see it, Cait, I know. But if you go into a Facebook group and you ask a question, like, it's almost like there's vultures attacking, like coming in, and like everybody has an answer and everybody wants to help. And like there's 3,000 people that are saying that they are able to serve you in the way that they can. And how do you stand up? How do you stand out against that? Like what is unique about your story and about your messaging and about the way that you do things that allows people to really truly come in and get to know who you are and understand the work that you do? And people buy from people they know, like, and trust. They want to get to know who you are. So you have to show up and share those pieces of yourself. People, like some things you might think are like a funny, quirky thing about yourself, but that might be exactly what they need and how they can relate and respond to you. And where they're like, oh, like they start to lean in. They're like, oh, tell me more. Like this, they either see, like they're mirroring, like they see themselves in you, or they like how you're showing up and they want to show up and do what you're doing as well. So it's just another way for you to stand out because they're like, oh, like I can see myself in you. I relate. I understand. It just gives you that connection piece that so often is so hard because you don't want to be vanilla, right? Like you don't want to be like the vanilla ice cream. We all hear
that's this pink lipstick.
I'm digging on your glasses and your pink lipstick today. But yeah, like you have to show up as you. Like
yeah,
that color pink will not work on me, but girl, it works for you. Like
thank you.
Stand out because of it.
I love a bold lip.
Yes, I do too. I love it. One of my guests, Tara Bradford,
I love
she wears
her.
red lipstick. And
yeah.
we even joked, like when she came on to the interview, she was where I didn't have any lipstick on. I was kind of like I'm right now. Like I didn't put lipstick on. I usually wear some lipstick. But she had wore her red lipstick for the interview and she's like, it's part of my brand. It's like part of my signature. Like if you look at her website and you look at her live videos and you look at our interview from the summit, which you're going to sign up for and get to see, like she's wearing this beautiful red lipstick. And I just love that, like, you get to create your brand and kind of stand out and people are going to start to notice. They're going to see like, oh, like you wear this color lipstick often, or maybe your kids are part of your brand and like you're not afraid to like show some pictures of your kids and some of your marketing and your different
or they might run behind you while you're doing a video and that's just sort of, you just sort of roll with it. So like you're kind of chill and
my kids are out of school for one more week because in California where I live at, they get 3 weeks off for winter break, which I kind of feels like a little much and insane, but they're home for a whole nother week with me and I'm back to work this week. So I'm like, it's highly possible that they could walk in at any moment. Hopefully they don't, but we'll see.
But yeah, if they do, they do. It's just part of the journey. I always get comments after I do, when I do lives, not always on just basic stories, but whenever I do a live, I always have a bold lip because I just love to do it. And I always get comments on it afterwards. And another thing that one of the people that's watching, her name is Julie, she's amazing. She got me a puzzle for Christmas because I post about puzzles on a regular basis. It's something that I like to do to keep my mind off my business, to not be watching TV, to be like outside of a screen. Because when you're an online entrepreneur, there's so much of your time that's spent in front of a screen. Like I need an active thing that's going to keep me outside of the screen. And I couldn't exercise for a long time because my Achilles was injured, right? Yeah. Hi, Julie. So when I started posting about puzzles so much, that's something that people automatically connect me with now. So it's part of my, I didn't intend it. I didn't do it on purpose for it to be part of my branding or part of who I was. but it is something that once I shared 2 or 3 stories about puzzle pieces, things fitting together, putting a puzzle together, all that stuff, you know, it's something that people started connecting with me. And now is something that, you know, when people see a puzzle, they take pictures and they send it to me. So there's like this extra connection factor.
Yeah.
Because of that, you know. And the other thing that people write to me about is these wispies, because I talk about them when I'm online, because I just like, every hairdresser I've ever had has like said like, we can do something about that. And I'm like, girl, they're not going anywhere.
They're your signature look.
They're just part,
sure
yeah, like they're just part of my face. Like, it's just not going to change. So that's another thing that people write to me about. They're like, oh my God, I have those too. And those are silly things that might seem to be not super important to you, but they are the things that people remember, and they are the reason that you stick into people's minds. So I think that they're actually really important.
Yeah. Hi, Mel. I just want to say hi to Mel. I saw Mel wave to us.
Hi, Mel.
But you're so right, because that's part of our brand, right? Like wearing lipstick, things that a lot of people will talk about, things they watch on TV, like if they have a favorite show. I talk about a ton, like I do this silly thing called Follow Up Friday. Hey, Tiff. But Follow Up Friday, like people come to me and they know that I'm like huge on following up with people. And like, that's something I talk about all the time. I do it for myself. And I get people that will come up to me at like networking events locally or other places. And they're like, hey, like, I love that you follow up and how you like do this like fun, make a game of it, instead of making it like this like hard task or like thing that's on my list I have to do and I have to check it off. Instead, it's like a game. Like I'm like, how many people can I follow up with today on Friday? And I do follow up occasionally, like other days during the week too, don't get me wrong. But for the most part, like if it's a Tuesday and I have time and somebody pops in my mind, like I'll send a message right then. But if I don't have time at the moment, I'm like, oh, I need to send a message to so-and-so, and I'll write their name down on my Friday task list.
Right.
And then I sit down, I give myself an hour every single Friday. And it's so fun to like just sit down and say, okay, how many people can I like touch base with and like say hello to or re-engage with or follow back up with, because we had a call earlier in the week. And it's like a fun game. But I love that like that's something that my brand has become known for, is like Follow Up Friday. Like just it's such a fun, silly way to show up.
Yeah. And it's an amazing thing to do to avoid burnout too, because batching is such a great way to plan your time, and when you can keep track of things that way, and when you have set aside times to set yourself up to say like, this is when I'm doing this task, it doesn't take up so much space in your brain for the rest of the week. You're not thinking about it all week long. You're not, so it's a good thing for your branding, but it's also an amazing thing as a burnout prevention for entrepreneurs, especially because if you just focus on getting it done that day, then you don't have to think about it for the other 6 days of the week.
Exactly. And I love
really
that
important.
like if somebody pops in my head, I just write them down, and then they're no longer, I don't have to hold space anymore in my head for it. I already know, like I wrote Billy Bob's name down for Friday, and I'm going to send a message to Billy Bob or whoever they are. Like I don't have to like continue to worry about it. And you know, that's one thing that like you're probably similar, most of us are, I think, like when we have a lot going on in our brains, like we can't turn it off. Like at nighttime, if I don't make a list, like if I can't go to sleep, it's usually because I have like 30 things flying around in my head that I need to accomplish. And I've never took the time to sit down and just write a list of what needs to be done. So if I even open up like my notes tab on my phone, and I'll just like jot down like a bunch of notes, and then like my brain will just quiet, and it will stop worrying and thinking, and like it tries to hold on to all these thoughts, and it can't hold on to that much. Like my brain is not that brain. Like I can't remember what I did yesterday. I can't remember what I have to do tomorrow. Like I have to write it down.
Yeah.
So that
we call that a brain dump.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
We call that a brain dump. I love a good brain dump, and something that I need as well. So I have a question for you, and you guys, just so that everybody knows that's watching, Darlene and I did not talk about what I was going to ask her when we got on this call. We just sort of jumped on a live, and we're just sort of going for it. So she's not expecting any of these questions. So these are generally like her very authentic responses to everything that I'm saying. I have a question for you that I'm sort of curious about.
Yeah.
Because I'm on 2 summits this month, yours and another one that's very focused on burnout, which the one that's focused on burnout obviously makes a lot of sense that I'm on that summit, because that's the only thing I talk about, right? But here we have a brand building summit, and you decided to do a talk with me as a burnout coach. How come?
That's an awesome question. So honestly, when I was looking at who I knew and who I could reach out to be a part of the summit,
Yeah.
you were top of mind because I see so many of my clients come to me and they're trying to grow a business. They're trying to grow their brand in a way that has them attracting their ideal clients, standing out online. And the first thing that they talk about is that they're exhausted.
Yeah.
And they're burnt out and they don't know how to continue at the pace that they're going at without like hitting a wall completely and like not knowing how to move forward. So it was completely natural for me to have you on because 99% of my clients at some point, and myself included, like burnout is a real thing. Like we all go through it. I know I went through it hard, like during my corporate life, and I try really hard now as an entrepreneur to make sure I don't allow that to happen. And it's still like, there's still weeks though, where I can tell like my body is like holding on to stuff that it doesn't need to hold on to. And I'm stressing out and worrying about things that I don't need to.
Right.
And that's like the tips that you share during the summit are the tips that we all need as entrepreneurs as we're growing our business, because every single week is different. Every single week we have different obstacles and different tasks and different things that come up, and we have choices, right? That how we can choose to respond to that. And the tips that you share are so gold for how to take care of ourselves first. Oh, you're wearing some gold. There we go. Bling, bling. But right, it's like, that's what we need. Like we need to know that we're human and that it's natural and that it happens to all of us. And how do we move forward? How do we respond and do things in the right way?
Yeah. And I think it was really important for me to be part of this summit because the way that we're starting with my talk, right?
I don't know.
Did I remember that right?
Out, to be
oh, okay. I thought you said that I was starting, but I'm not sure. That might have been the other one because there's so much going on. But
I forget.
It's one of the reasons that I was excited to do it was because for me, like talking about burnout in entrepreneurs especially is super important. So being in places where I can share things about burnout in an entrepreneurial space is super, super important to me because there's like, I read an article on LinkedIn last week and it was like, corporations are responsible for burnout and they need to change the way that they're structured and change the way they treat their employees in order to avoid burnout in their employees, et cetera, et cetera. Like it's not the personal responsibility of the employee to avoid burnout on their own. And while in a corporate structure, a lot of that is true. When you're an entrepreneur, you are responsible for the organizational structure that you create. So we don't have a scapegoat to blame. We've got to set this up for ourselves and we've got to do it in a way long term that is sustainable. So I think that having the burnout conversation in entrepreneurial spaces is like, that's my dream. That's exactly everything I live for, because that's the thing I feel like is so important and so under discussed, because there's a lot of talk about how doctors burn out because they're in hospitals and the system is what it is, and corporate burnout because you don't have control. Like you said, you didn't have autonomy to make these decisions. But what happens when you have the autonomy and you have the control and you find yourself burning out anyway? When it happened to me, I was so confused. I was like, I do what I love. I'm good at it. I'm making good money. What?
Yeah. How am I still burning out? Like how do
I feel like shit right now? Like this is, and I'm mad at people. I'm mad at my patients because they need me. Like, what the heck?
Yeah. But
what the heck?
I think we just assume though that we take ourselves out of that corporate environment or 9 to 5, whatever type of environment you were in. And we assume that like that was the problem.
Yeah.
But you can have burnout no matter, you could be a stay-at-home mom
and be
that's stressed out and burnt out with that. You can be a working from home mom that's stressed out and burnt out. You can be in corporate. It doesn't matter like what your situation is. Like you can burn out because you haven't taken the time to really like listen to your body and to take that time for self-care.
Yeah.
And when we do, right, like you know this, like you preach it to me all the time. Like that's where the gold is at. Like when you're taking care of you first. It's like I hate the expression, but I use it all the time. Like, it's like when you're on the airplane and like you put the oxygen mask on first, like everybody says that example. So it's so played out, but it's so true, right? Like if you put the oxygen mask on the